Welcome back to the Celtics Nation Rise recap. I'm Griffin Aldrich, and your Boston Celtics have defeated the Cleveland Cavaliers with a final score of 115 to 117. Again, what a great win by the Boston Celtics. Peyton Pritchard was phenomenal tonight, and Daniel and I talked last night, about Peyton Pritchard and does he switch roles with not Derek White, sorry, I saw Derek White on the bottom, but with Anthony Simons, or how does that flip flop? But Peyton Pritchard tonight proved that he is capable of that starting spot, and he proved it tonight with 42 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists, and shot 68.2% from the field goal. Again, an incredible night for Derek White. For the Boston Celtics, though, from the field goal, they were 40 for 81 tonight, opposed to the Cleveland Cavaliers, 43 from 94 from the field goal. And again, good efficient night from the Boston Celtics. The Boston Celtics own the pace for majority of the game, as we are going to flip to the quarters in just a second. But the Boston Celtics, after having a back-to-back, they go to Cleveland, land at supposedly 2 a.m., and have a good game. The Boston Celtics did make it very, very close in the fourth quarter, and almost looked like the Cleveland Cavaliers would come back with Donovan Mitchell sniping down a three, but also Darius Garland, and made it kind of a nail biter. I've talked about it a lot. The Boston Celtics are very good at making you scared because, again, and it's not one thing to really harp on the Celtics for, because they've done it last year too, they've done it previously. It is a hard team to see close out games. However, they were able to manage to close it out tonight, and this is what the Celtics looked like. Here's the differential. The Boston Celtics in the first quarter led over the Cleveland Cavaliers with a score of 28 to 26. In the second quarter, the Boston Celtics continued to lead over the Cleveland Cavaliers. However, in the second quarter, the Cavs led by 5 at 6:11. So you see kind of that lead sink down. So 30 to 25 in the second. In the third quarter, the Boston Celtics picked up the momentum, scoring 32 to 28. And in the fourth quarter, the Boston Celtics fell short, but kept the momentum for the win, as the Celtics had 27 opposed to 36 by the Cleveland Cavaliers, giving you a final score of 115 to 117. And again, just the capability of not being able to close out, but still a good game by the Boston Celtics. And this is one where, here are my initial thoughts from it. This is a game where you lose to the Timberwolves in a back-to-back. You go to Cleveland and beat a Cleveland team that is supposedly one of the better teams in the NBA, and you beat a great team in the Cleveland Cavaliers. And I want to look up the standings now, as this boosts the Celtics to 11-9, and the Cavs are just barely ahead of the Boston Celtics now in 7th place, and the Boston Celtics get the 8th seed from this game. Again, way too early to kind of keep a standings watch. But if we are talking about standings, the Cavs are only 1 game ahead of the Boston Celtics. So they're 12-9. And I want to ask the question, does this kind of establish a identity for the Celtics? Because us on this podcast, well, on the recap tonight, but on the podcast, we've talked about, it's too early for the Celtics to establish identity. Are they a bottom tier team? But this Boston Celtics team is showing that they can compete with teams high up. I mean, just the other night, the Celtics faced the Fire Red Pistons, who are 16-4, snapped their 13-game win streak, and the Boston Celtics are in 8th place. I think this is a sneaky team, like you see with the Isaiah Thomas days, where this team can really start some momentum and be a sneaky playoff team. Again, a lot of people want the Celtics to tank for Demansa, and I just don't see it. I don't see this team being a tanking team. But for the Cavs tonight, Evan Mobley was kind of their X factor. In 39 minutes, had 27 points, 14 rebounds, a double-double with 4 assists, and shot 64.7% from the field goal. Donovan Mitchell had a very slow night to start it off. There were times where Tillman and Pritchard had more points than him. He had in 18 points, but in the beginning of the game wasn't doing so hot and kind of came alive at the end. And I heard he was mouthing Jaylen Brown at the foul line. We remember that from the infamous Grant Williams take when he chirped at Grant Williams and Grant Williams said, "I'm gonna make them both," but missed those both. And then Darius Garland in 31 minutes had 21 points, 8 assists. And Tyson had 17 points. Tyrese Proctor, who was a rookie, had 8 points in 11 minutes. So not a lot. Hunter had 8 points, and Dean Wade, who was a Celtics killer, only had 3. So you look at that, not crazy. The Cavs had 13 turnovers and 43 rebounds, opposed to the Boston Celtics, 46 rebounds and 16 turnovers. So 3 more turnovers for the Celtics, but winning the rebound battle. And this is huge for the Boston Celtics because you're facing a guy in Evan Mobley who controls the glass. And that's a guy where you kind of want to be scared for. Obviously, Jarrett Allen not playing out with right finger sprain. And I'm looking at this, a lot of guys out for the Cavs. So my question too is when this Cavs team later on in the season, when they have all their guys back, because they have a lengthy list out. I mean, we have Larry Nance Jr., who's out. Lonzo Ball, who's out, Jarrett Allen, who's out, Max Spruce, and Sam Merrill. So a hefty amount of players who are out. And again, you're trusting guys like Proctor in there. You're trusting guys like Thomas Bryant, who played 6 minutes and had 2 points. This Cavs team, when everyone is back, is a team to be reckoned with. Now, I'm not saying that, the Celtics beat a hospital Cavs because I think this was a phenomenal win because they still have guys like Evan Mobley, Darius Garland, and Donovan Mitchell. So again, this is kind of going to be a win that you want to see the next 2 games that the Cavs face the Celtics, hopefully when the Cavs are healthy. And you want to look at that and be like, all right, was it a different game? Da, 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 but still, a win is a win. And the Boston Celtics proved it on their end with Amari Williams playing 6 minutes, had 2 rebounds, and he was seen in the game towards the end, the last possession, to kind of go in there and get a rebound. Obviously, that's not huge because he is one of the big men on this team, but I think that's big in my eyes. Again, in a retooling season, it's not huge, but still, trusting him out there in crunch time is big for me. Baylor Shireman, who played 15 minutes, had 5 points, 2 rebounds, and shot 66.7%. This is a guy in Baylor Shireman who we weren't very high on at the beginning of the season. I was very high on him last season. I saw him develop in Maine. But this is a guy who I'm finally trusting with the ball. So I love what Baylor Shireman has been doing. Ugo Gonzalez played 7 minutes tonight, had 3 points and a steal. Not a lot there, not a huge sample size, only playing 7 minutes, but defensively, he looks like a monster, and we just got to keep developing him and keep inserting him when you can. And then there was actually a lengthy DMP list. I want to mention that before we continue. Go up. Max Shulga, who didn't play, Ron Harper Jr., Luka Garza, who didn't play, which is interesting. And we're going to talk about a guy in Xavier Tillman who took his minutes tonight, and Chris Boucher, who I want you guys to stay tuned for the podcast either Wednesday or Thursday because we're going to talk about Chris Boucher. Didn't look happy after not playing last night, and another DNP for Chris Boucher. But Josh Minot, who played 13 minutes, had 0 points, 4 rebounds, 2 blocks. Again, this is a guy who hit or miss. This is a guy who this season, he's very much so developing. And that was the whole idea with Luka Garza and Josh Minot, is to develop them. And we've seen very good flashes from Josh Minot, and we've seen games where in 13 minutes has a negative 4 plus minus, has 0 points. We've seen games like that where it's not the best game for him, but I'm very high on Josh Minot. Sam Hauser, who hit a couple clutch threes, and he's been electric from last night, and he's giving you that energy off the bench. You want to kind of see a little more spark for me personally from Sam Hauser because he played a lot of minutes, played 35 minutes, only had 7 points, but again, shot it when you needed it, shot 50% from the field goal, had 5 rebounds, 2 assists, 1 steal. And the guy I wanted to talk about, Xavier Tillman. Played 30 minutes tonight, a lengthy amount of time for the Boston Celtics, had 9 points, 6 rebounds, 3 steals, 1 block, and shot 44.4% from the field goal. I am so excited to see Tillman out there. And this raises an eyebrow. Is Tillman going to be a guy that the Boston Celtics can start to rely on and continue to utilize him? Can this be a guy who still has it in him, and the Celtics just haven't given him that opportunity? Can this be a guy that the Boston Celtics kind of turn their heads on and look at and be like, all right, we like what Tillman's doing. If they insert him back into the lineup, can he be that guy that we saw from that finals run? Let me know in the comments. But with that being said, Jordan Walsh, who kind of took over the minutes of Josh Minott, played 38 minutes tonight. Second most on the team. Jaylen Brown also played 38, so tied for the most. 38 minutes, had 14 points, 11 rebounds, double-double for Jordan Walsh, assists, 2 steals, a block, and shot 57.1% from the field goal, a -2 plus minus. But I was very, very impressed from from Jordan Walsh, sorry. And I want to have him in mention for Celtics Nation Rise MVP. I think tonight was very efficient and was a Jordan Walsh that I see very promising future from, very promising future from. He's young. This is a guy who hasn't had a lot of time and can finally develop this season, and he deserves a spot on the list for Celtics Nation Rise MVP tonight. I want to give him some flowers. Anthony Simons, who in 27 minutes, again on the Celtics Nation Rise MVP watch board, 27 minutes, had 18 points, 1 rebound, 2 assists, 1 steal, and shot 57.1% from the field goal. Efficient night from Anthony Simons, but kind of fell off after the first half. In the fourth quarter, kind of struggled hitting the 3. But ultimately, I think it comes down to these two. Very efficient night for Jaylen Brown. I mean, last night had 40 points. I wish we could have given him the Celtics Nation Rise MVP, but unfortunately, Celtics Nation Rise MVP has only come on nights of a win. So that's kind of the golden star for getting a Celtics Nation Rise MVP. You're not going to get it every night. You got to get a win first. A Celtics Nation Rise MVP, for you guys who didn't know, is, the thing who really gave the Celtics that golden opportunity, the person who really stuck out the most and did the most to give that team the win. And Jaylen Brown had a triple-double tonight in 38 minutes, had 19 points, 12 rebounds, 11 assists, 1 steal, and shot 23.1% from the field goal. That's kind of the downfall for him. He had shot 23.1%, had 6 turnovers, so tough night for Brown. But again, triple-double, so have to be excited with that. So not a bad night. I mean, a plus 16 plus minus, but the field goal kind of looked a little low, but still a very good night and very efficient night from Jaylen Brown. And got to give him some kudos from last night and got to give him some kudos for tonight. But ultimately, the guy who did the most for the Boston Celtics, I'm voting him, and I'm the only one tonight. Your Celtics Nation Rise MVP goes to Peyton Pritchard. I mean, where do I even start? He affected the game incredibly today. And I said this, we had the discussion that should it be Anthony Simons or Peyton Pritchard for the starting spot? And Pritchard proved it tonight. She had 42 points and shot 68.2% from the field goal. He was incredible and he was electric tonight. Peyton Pritchard could not be stopped, and he is your Celtics Nation Rise MVP for the 3rd time this season. Again, I'm going to keep going off of his stats. In 31 minutes, had 42 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists, and shot 68.2% from the field goal. Very efficient night for Peyton Pritchard, giving him his 3rd Celtics Nation Rise MVP. And he answered to the call every time. And this is another reason I want to give him the MVP over Brown. Brown made 1 of 2 foul shots at the end. And, that one, they didn't make the shot to win, but, game tying shot, it really wouldn't have mattered. It didn't matter because the Celtics won, but just being able to knock those down late in the game is huge. And Pritchard did that because the possession before the Darius Garland 3, Pritchard hit 2 foul shots, and you saw him hitting a 2 bomb. He was just incredible. So Peyton Pritchard gets Celtics Nation Rise MVP, and the Boston Celtics come 1-1 out of their 2-game road trip so far. Both a back-to-back night, getting the second win. And so far in their series, that we call them series, go watch the podcast if you guys haven't, Celtics Nation Rise podcast. We talk about this often, about our series predictions. And this week we did 5 games. And the Boston Celtics so far are 2-1. So they beat 2 teams where they beat the Pistons, they beat the Cavs. They're on a tear. Again, you guys, the Boston Celtics defeat the I wouldn't say red hot. The Boston Celtics defeat the Cleveland Cavaliers, who, as we know, has been a red hot team in the previous years, but tonight not so much. The Boston Celtics defeat them with a final score of 115-117. With that being said, you guys, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe and turn on post notifications to be notified every time we upload. Again, you guys, we will see you guys on the next one. Peace, guys. Thank you guys for watching.